Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Batum in the way, diving at it, man. 3, Beasley. Russell for the lead. Edwards, hold on. Oh my goodness. Edwards thinking 3 and popping a 3. The screen and the 2. The biggest lead for Minnesota. Picked up by Beverley, and that's all she wrote. The Timberwolves are going to the playoffs. Hold on. Here it is. It's
Get
new.
the
Wave it. Wave it.
It's just out.
There you go.
Wait,
That's how you wave
I
a
gotta
flag.
show you. Yeah, but I gotta show you what it looks like. So you
Shoes
see
are
it
off.
when I wave
Shoes
it.
off.
Shoes off.
They're on.
Shoes off. Shoes off. Take that, TNT.
Shoes
Take
off, game
that.
over.
Take that. People telling Minnesota sports fans they shouldn't celebrate a team that's stuck for that long. Wait, hold on a second. I want to enjoy the fun. I got a slipper. Slipper on.
The slipper's off.
Everything on. Well, not shorts. All right.
Honestly, you know what? Screw TNT, man. I love that show. It's one of my favorite shows on television or streaming or whatever. But, like, are you guys, these people this morning, are you kidding me? Celebration shaming Timberwolves fans? Get over yourself.
Yeah.
Act like you've been there. We haven't in like
Not to mention
17
that.
years.
Not to mention that, but why are you clowning Pat Bev? Like, Pat Bev just he literally beat a team that said, yeah, you know what? Thanks, but you're gone. You're too old. You're broken down. Like he went through the litany of why he was crying and why he was like, F the Clippers. Like, why are you clowning that? Like, Pat Bev's a respected guy.
I know. And by the way, if my internet's being weird, just shut me up and you guys can carry on here. But, like, Pat Bev came in, in September? There's even a tweet with receipts, and he said, manifest Thursday, back on, like, September 21st. We will make the playoffs. We will make the playoffs.
Yes, he did.
And so he's, listen, that's his old team. He felt like he got lowballed on a contract, and so he asked to be traded.
Yep.
And talk all the trash you want, man. You brought Pat Beverley in for that last night, right?
Yes,
for him
exactly.
to be the emotional heart and soul to help throughout the season make this team believe that they can win a game like that last night.
The Timberwolves buffet. I'm at the Wolves victory buffet, yes. Give me a little basketball knife, a little fork.
I love it. Well, this is, if you're new, or even if you're not, this is Mackie and Judd, daily Minnesota sports entertainment, speculation, therapy as needed, celebration. If you missed Wolves vent line last night, it was just an hour of celebration. Judd was courtside still at Target Center. Before we get into our Timberwolves pie chart of praise and write that down predictions, we'll have a little bit of a cat conversation too. What was, for the people that weren't watching or listening to vent line last night, what was the arena like? For the people that weren't there last night.
Absolutely electric. So I walked in there right after the Wolves had taken the court for pregame warm-ups. So just the context there, warm-ups. The arena the lower bowl was full. The upper deck was getting crowded. Everybody in the lower bowl was standing up, and it was electric. It was electric. And the frustration about the refereeing actually caused the crowd to grow more intense. It was absolutely fantastic. People here, are starved for just period good teams. So, forget the Wolves. But the basketball fans in the state are so starved for, like, the Gophers to be good, which they have not been in a long time, or for the Wolves. And there is a huge community of basketball fans. Like, we know that. And they're looking for, like, the Division I team or the Wolves to be relevant. I'm not even saying good, relevant. And they got that last night, and the crowd was fantastic. And that's part of why I keep saying, clown a team that is expected to be good and disappoints, but Wolves fans deserved what they got last night.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, I love the TNT crew. I love Shaq and Chuck and Kenny, Ernie. I love that crew so much. But they don't get it. And I don't expect them to get it.
And
those
guys
guys
don't get it. Like, I saw guys, I saw NBA players on Twitter clowning it. Like,
dude,
Did the Wolves just win the chip?
Basically, let us have this, okay? We
Right.
understand how ridiculous. Like we're not doing this with a lack of self-awareness, okay? It's been 17 years since the Kevin Garnett era came to a close. I mean, it lingered on for 2 more years, but like the peak of the Western Conference Finals was the last real moment of Timberwolves relevance. Right. Those TNT guys have maybe watched 10 Timberwolves games since then, right? And that's fine. I don't even fault them. They watched some of the playoff games against the Rockets. They watched Game 82 against the Nuggets, and they watched last night. And they might have watched a Kevin Love, Ricky Rubio game. And so, like, they haven't been grinding through this as a fan for the last almost 20 years. I mean, this is last night the Timberwolves accomplished a huge goal and a check mark to make this a successful season. And it was almost 2 decades of pent-up frustration and apathy and dysfunction, right? And even if they get swept by Memphis, which I don't think they're going to, I actually think they're going to put up a huge fight in that series and perhaps even win it. But, like, what difference does it make if you're one of the TNT guys or a player on another team or a fan in another market? What difference does it make for you if Timberwolves fans and players want to celebrate the way that they did last night? Does it take away from your team or your life or like your viewing pleasure? Who cares, man? Like, well, it was a joyous celebratory night, and no one should apologize for it.
Their contention is that the Wolves should act like, like, okay, it's just a playing game, which, by the way, I'm with if this was like the 4th consecutive year of playing games, but it's not. And the thing, too, that I think is important is this. Pat Bev and Ant were themselves. Like, it would be one thing if they were low-key dudes and all of a sudden they won and it's like they turned it up to 10 and be like, that's sort of weird. But Ant and Pat Bev are like this. And so, like, their reaction was 1,000% what I expected, which was joyous, because Ant plays the whole game like he is having a great time, and Pat Bev is wound as tight as you could possibly be. So, like, nobody did anything that, in my opinion, was out of body. Like, it's not like Wiggy was up on the scores table. It's like, Andrew, what are you doing? Like, you never do that, right? Like, their response to that win was totally within the bounds of what I expected. So, like, why would I want them to suppress that? Like, don't be yourself now.
I know.
So
they act like you've been there before. They literally like the only guy that's been there before. I mean, D'Lo went to the playoffs with Brooklyn 1 year, right? And they won like 42 games.
Yeah.
Yes. Nate Knight played in 4 playoff games for the Hawks. Otherwise, Pat Bev is the only one that's experienced something. I mean, Cat played in some playoff games against the Rockets, kind of.
Well,
stood off in the corner.
And I mean, their best player had one of the worst games of his career, and they still won too.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of things they overcame are pretty impressive to me.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it here, boys. Let's do this.
Do it, baby.
Now on Mackey and Judd.
You wanted better charts that you could see the fine print on.
The pie chart of praise.
You should be singing his praises.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
All right, let's do it. Let's fire it up. The pie chart of praise off of a Timberwolves victory over the Clippers last night. And we'll get into the Cat conversation, too. But I've got 6 slices, boys. 6 slices, and probably could have sliced it even thinner in Judd Zulgad fashion. But
nice.
I'm going to start from the smaller slices and work my way up. 10% to Malik Beasley, specifically hitting that 3-pointer at the end of the third quarter. It felt like the wheels were coming off. The Clippers built, I believe, a 9-point lead going into like the final 5 seconds of the third quarter. And Cat had picked up another foul. So Malik Beasley goes down into the right corner and just drills a 3 at the buzzer to make it, I believe, a 6-point game going into the fourth. It just felt more manageable going into the fourth after he hit that 3-pointer. So I just don't think you can underestimate psychologically that bucket. Just, okay, we're not down by 9. 6 is manageable. Get the ball, make it 4, right? Like, it's a smaller hill to climb.
Yep.
10%, Pat Beverley. You guys might think this is low, but you guys have your own pie charts coming up. He was just steady, man. Like, he can run the point. He gets in opponents' heads. He's the emotional leader. I'm not sure if there's anything he can do to help Cat going forward here, because last night nobody was able to help Cat, but just the pulse that is Pat Beverley, playoff Pat Beverley, manifesting this playoff appearance going back to last September. 10% to him. 10% to Chris Finch. I don't think this was Chris Finch's best game. And we kind of talked about this on yesterday's preview show with Dane Moore that it kind of feels like they're just going in like it's another game, and the Clippers are going to bring something specific, and they did, and it worked, and they took Cat out. It's everything we talked about, right? If I'm the Clippers, what do? I try to fluster Cat and get him. We said try to get him 2 or 3 fouls early. They got him 4 fouls in the first half, and they got him barreling into defenders and just mentally completely short-circuiting, right?
Yep.
And so I think to put Towns, to leave him out there with 3 fouls to pick up the 4th when he was that emotionally distraught was a huge coaching mistake. But the way that team came together and played strategically without Cat the rest of the way, like they weren't planning on not having Cat for 24 minutes of that game, and they found a way with matchups and with ball movement to make it work anyway. So he gets some credit. I don't think that was Chris Finch's best game, but he gets some credit there. 10% to the fans for everything we talked about. That, you know, don't apologize for the way that you celebrated. Don't apologize for the way that you feel. It's kind of like that movie, The Little Giants, where they score their first touchdown. I don't know. I think the fans brought some great energy and some great noise to that arena last night, and they deserve credit.
Agree.
All right, 30% to D'Lo and 30% to Ant rounds out my pie chart. Those guys deserve equal credit for just taking the game, hitting huge buckets, hands and faces. Those guys were just outstanding last night. And D'Lo, you know, we've been criticizing D'Lo at times. Dude, you're a max player. You're a $35 million player. Like, you can't just disappear during the biggest games down the stretch in the regular season. But he stepped up last night. And Anthony Edwards rising up under the bright lights. He's a bright lights player, as we've talked about. He showed it last night. So 30% D'Lo, 30% Ant, 10% each to the fans, Chris Finch, Pat Bev, and Malik Beasley. That's my punch.
All right.
The Rock knows how you
I like
feel
it.
about pie.
Very Zolgadian, as you said, 6 parts, and that is interesting because I'm more Macadakian in my pie chart because it's not going to be as big. I'm not doing 6 pieces. I'm just doing 4 simple slices. I will start at the bottom and work my way up. 15% goes to the fans. The fans were electric last night. The fans played a role. I'm not going to say it was huge, but they played a role. That building was, from start to finish, before tip-off, that building was alive. It was fun. It was a place that it has rarely been since 2004. That's an unbelievable statement. But 15% goes to the fans. Kudos. Great job. The enthusiasm was awesome to watch. 20% goes to Pat Bev. Pat Bev was one of 2 heartbeats of this team. On a night that their best player had a terrible game, scored what? Karl-Anthony Towns, 11 points, was basically a non-factor. Might have been a minus factor. The team, I think, very much played better without him on the floor.
Yes.
But Pat Bev, 7 points, so not a ton of points, but as far as leadership goes, and I mean, he was in foul trouble too, and guess what he did? He played through it. Because he's a veteran. He takes his emotions to the edge of the cliff, but unlike Cat, he doesn't go off the cliff. That's incredibly important. 20% Pat Bev. Man, Gerson Rosas, nice trade. Executive of the year. All right. 30% goes to D'Lo. First quarter, terrible. Foul trouble. Easily probably could have gone south himself. I mean, personality-wise, I thought he might. He was frustrated too, much like Cat. But you know what he did? Started the second quarter, picked himself up off the floor, dusted himself off, and had a fantastic game. 29 points? So absolutely great. D'Lo, 30%. I think we have finally put the Gerson lost that trade to bed. I know he gave up a first-round pick to Golden State, and I know that there are some who think that was too much. But if that's the type of game that you're going to get from D'Lo in the biggest game, you're not going to complain about it. Not one bit. 30%. And that leaves my 4th slice, 35% for the guy who was a heart and soul guy, but also with 30 points, hit big shots. The Wolves got off to, shooting-wise, a miserable start, but this guy scored the first 7 points. And he's the guy, I think, that established the fact that no matter how bad the game felt, it was always going to be close, which became really, really important. Ant, I mean, just in every way, he talks a big game, but he backs it up. And I can't tell you how many guys it feels like don't do exactly that. So 35% to Ant, 30% to D'Lo, 20% to the veteran, grizzled veteran, Pat Beverley, and 15% to the fans. You deserved what you got. Congratulations.
I love it.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
Love it.
All right, 5 slices of pie for me and my pie chart of praise here.
I guess 6, 4, 5.
5 slices. I'll start from the bottom and work my way up like the gentleman I am. 5%. Wolves fans. Wolves fans deserve this, dude. They have been hungry. We have been talking about all the random Wolves on our YouTube channel yesterday, and they deserved a big slice of this. And 5% still could be a little bit low, but that arena was packed, and they can swing a momentum like that. And, you know, when Phil and I, Judd, we were waiting for you to get in the room yesterday, but Phil and I were talking about, it felt like this game was so beyond the Wolves. Like, it felt like throughout, even though they only trailed at, like, at most by 10 points, it felt like the majority of this game, the Wolves were chasing it down 20. Like, it just had that feeling, but the Wolves fans were clearly on the edge of their seats, standing up the whole time, keeping the Wolves in the game, keeping them engaged. They deserve some praise. They get 5% in my pie chart of praise. 15% to the Wolves bench. The Wolves bench plus 33 last night. And you need your bench to give you some quality minutes. I mean, plus 33 in a playoff game, you will take that every damn time. You know, Dane Moore was on with us yesterday, and he said if we have to see Naz Reid, you know, for 20-plus minutes tomorrow, it's probably going to be a bad night for the Wolves. Yeah. And it wasn't.
He played 21 minutes, and he was good.
He was arguably their most solid player off the bench. And Karl-Anthony Towns, when he got in the foul trouble and just was completely ineffective, he was the biggest reason why the Wolves were still able to stay in that game. Plus 17, was able to hit some big shots, play some key defense. He deserves a lot of praise. Jaden McDaniels had a big bucket at the end of the first quarter. They deserve a lot of praise. Malik Beasley, Threesley as I like to call him, hitting some big buckets. Plus 33 off the Wolves bench. They get 15% of my pie chart of praise. 20% to D'Lo. It felt like in the first quarter he was just kind of a passenger. He wasn't doing anything negative, but I don't think he was doing anything positive. But then that second quarter, he goes off. I believe 14 points of his 28 came in that second quarter and hit some really big shots. So 20% to D'Lo. And then let's see here, 40%. Or actually, you know what? I made a big math gap here because I eliminated one person off as I was doing it on the fly.
Now you have to do math. Oh no, can Declan do pie chart math?
St. Cloud State has let this show down again.
20.
This is the Reading Rainbow TikTok
15,
meme where
40.
Declan is trying to do math.
60% left of my pie chart of praise because I've done 40. 60% to Anthony Edwards, going absolutely off. I mean, the lights were on and the dude delivered. He hits the first 3 shots of the game. And then I was actually kind of surprised. He was on the bench for a good chunk of the last half of the first quarter and even to start, I believe, the second quarter. But then he still was able, the entire time he was in, he logged 37 minutes. I thought at the rate they were going, by the end of the first, this dude was going to have to play the rest of the game. But Chris Finch still sat him on the bench. He still rotated him in when it was appropriate. But when Ant was on the floor, hit 10 of 21 shots, 30 points from the game, and literally was the MVP. 20 years old, dude. This kid is so mature beyond his years and, yes, shows up in the biggest ways. So that's my pie chart of praise. 4 pieces, 15% to the Wolves bench, 5% to Wolves fans, 20% to D'Lo, 60% to Anthony Edwards.
There it is. All
The
right.
Rock knows how you feel about pie.
All right, let's have the cat conversation here, and we can kind of carry the cat conversation into other shows this week too. But before we do, we got a new partner on the show here. Joe, why don't you tell the audience? And by the way, these partners help keep us with the lights on, help keep us entertaining you on a daily basis, and so we love when we get new advertisers on board. Tell them about it.
This partner is going to help you out there, young or old. Mother's Day, May 8th. I want to introduce you to Spiral Light Candles. Gentlemen, Spiral Light Candles. I'm going to give you a little demonstration here. Thanks, Declan. Okay. Because this is something that you can go online, spirallightcandles.com, and order.
Ooh.
And this is, first of all, the scent is fantastic. Like, these things smell absolutely. Oh God, it smells.
It smells like it smells like Pat Beverley's sweat and shoes after last night. It's glorious.
It smells like lilacs. Okay,
so that works too. Yeah,
so for our young fans out there, guess what? Mom will love this. For guys who are closer to sports dad's age, your wife will love this. This is not a cliche gift. I don't want to name gifts, but this is not a cliche gift. This is an original idea made locally. shipped here. And so guess what? It arrives quickly. Prices start, this is the incredible thing, at $14.
Boom.
$14. Order $50 or more. It ships for free. SpiralLightCandles.com. And if you don't take Sports Dad's word, take Sports Mom's word, because I got about 3 of these. Dawn sampled them and said, I ordered more. So
Wow.
Dawn has already gotten more. SpiralLightCandles.com. Guys, I'm telling you right now, Mother's Day, May 8th. Surprise her. She will love these. And plus, they smell so doggone good.
Awesome. So, support them, support us. We appreciate it. Let's have a quick cat conversation here. I have a feeling that we would have talked for hours about this if they hadn't won the game, because it was just like,
Yes.
and by the way, like I'm whenever there's a Minnesota sports game that kind of rises up on the national level, I like to just sample what are the national shows, what are they saying about, and I haven't had a chance to comb through everything yet, but Declan tweeted out this morning, I want to hear what Stephen A. Smith had to say about things. I am curious to hear what Stephen A. said, but I fired up the Ringer. I think it was Bill Simmons' podcast with Kevin, a friend of the show, by the way, Kevin O'Connor from, not Kevin O'Connell, Kevin O'Connor from the Ringer. They literally led with how embarrassing Cat was last night, and the Ewing theory that when you take a player off a team, the team gets better, like. And it was just so glaring. Like, it's not that he just kind of had a bad game and disappeared. It was embarrassing. It was immature. It was petulance. It was a complete lack of emotional intelligence. I mean, when you need Jake Layman to calm you down on the bench for 10 minutes in the second half because you can't get yourself together mentally.
Yep.
This is why the league laughs at Towns. This is why the league doesn't take Towns seriously. This is why the TNT guys clown him whenever they get a chance to, right? Like,
correct.
So now he's got this Memphis series to make up for it. Otherwise, this might have been the lasting image of him this season. But, dude, it is time to grow up. That was embarrassing for everyone involved last night. And don't tell me, well, but what is he supposed to do? The officials are this and that. The officials were garbage, but he was committing some ridiculously stupid fouls, and he was officials are going to do what they're going to do. Do you think Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett back in the day just got derailed in a big game? No, they find a way to stay on the court. They find a way to keep their composure mentally. It is time to grow up. That was my biggest frustration last night. What did you guys see?
So a guy like Ant welcomes the pressure, but he thrives off of it. A guy like Pat Bev goes up to the edge of the cliff and plays there, but he doesn't fall off. Ant is overwhelmed by the moment before it starts. And so everything that happens to him impacts him, and it's often not positive. There was one sequence, I think it was in the third quarter last night, when Paul George was called for a foul that, guess what, fans, was probably a bad call. Like the Clippers got some bad calls too. And Paul George didn't like the call. And so Paul George went to the referee very calmly, explained what he didn't like about it, walked away, and that was it. And guess what? The referees respect that.
Yes.
And Cat, when he finally got the call last night, got a call in the first half to go to the free throw line, actually gave this bemused look and smirked and like shrugged his shoulders like finally.
Like, well, the crowd started chanting, or they started cheering,
but,
whatever.
Yeah. But here's the problem. Cat got away with that crap in the regular season. Same thing, because they used to chant bull bleep, which I liked a lot more. Swearing's funner. But, ref, you suck. And there were moments in the regular season when I was there, when Cat would amp the crowd up and start to raise his arms, like, yeah, keep that coming. Do you think you're going to get calls? Do you think, and that doesn't even get into the fact that you are allowing the moment to eat you up. You're a professional athlete. What's the most important thing? That you find a way to thrive off the atmosphere, yet disassociate yourself from the bad. Like, that's why teams can come back. That's why a stadium can be going nuts. There's nothing as a sports fan I love more for a team than to see them in a hostile environment and for their best player to shut the crowd up.
Yes.
Because it's awe-inspiring to see a human being who can tune it out.
Yep.
Cat can't even come close yet. And that's my problem. And that's where, I don't think this is one bad game. I don't think that this is, well, he's got to sit down and fix this, because I guarantee you, Chris Finch has tried. This is really a question of how do you rein this in? Because everything that happened last night from before that game started was in Cat's head. And Ant used it constructively. Pat Bev constructively. D'Lo didn't at first, but found a way to channel himself. Karl-Anthony Towns, arguably, as Patrick said, one of the top 15 players in this league, throughout the course of an entire game, never figured out how to use it to his advantage. That is a massive problem, not last night, going forward. And if the Wolves are going to go up a hill here, hopefully, and become a really contending team, I don't know. You can't tolerate this. So it's either has to change or something has to change.
And they can't, and like the idea that they can compete with Memphis and go 6-7 games or beat Memphis in a series is predicated on Cat playing at his peak level. Like he is your best player when he's playing at his peak level.
Yeah.
You're not going to beat Memphis with him getting into foul trouble and playing 24 minutes and losing his mind. So I'm so curious to see how he responds to this. I'm willing to give him some grace, even though this is like the 7th year of him in the NBA and he's had this problem for the entire duration of his career. I don't think you can just – he's not just going to like flip a switch mentally and all of a sudden become Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant. Like that ship has sailed. But is there some middle ground here where he can at least be a contributing member of the team? I mean, he was not even a contributing member of the team last night.
He was a negative. Mm-hmm. He was a negative. But, Phil, I mean, he was coming – so the Wolves bench is right by us. There was at least 2 or 3 times he came off the floor after being called for fouls he, clearly, of course, did not like. And he's literally almost so emotionally over dramatized. He's almost in tears. And he's like, they won't let me drive. They won't let me do. It's like, dude, that doesn't matter right now. And
by the way, it's not the refs that aren't letting you drive. You are barreling into Clippers defenders. The Clippers aren't letting you drive. So you need to find a different way to impact the game. It's a chess match, guy.
And there was one point too, and this is the little stuff that drives you crazy. And like, it's a starting point of what has to change. There was 1.2, I think it was in the second half, third quarter probably, where Cat was, no, it was in the second. And Cat was tried to post up. And a Clipper player bodied him up, because of course he did. Mm-hmm. And he started like flailing away, like trying to show I'm being fouled.
No, dude, play through it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the exact type of thing you can't. He's like literally like throwing himself forward. He didn't fall, but he's throwing himself forward, and then he's stumbling backwards.
Yep. And these refs are human. And Ed Malloy is a clown, and Scott Foster is a clown, and like multiple things can be true. Going in that those guys are going to try and make it about them. Hey, we're on national TV too. I'm Ed Malloy. Like the BS that Ed Malloy pulled when he gave the double technical to Pat Beverley and Morris. And then he realized, oh, God, Morris already had – I don't want to eject him. He already has a technical. And then he pulled a mulligan. Oh, we're going to review it, actually. It looks like it was just Beverley. It's like, no, you're a clown. Don't call anything or stick to the first call. You don't need to review that. You saw what you saw, and now you're trying to – and so, like, going in that those guys are going to try and impact the game. And going in that the Clippers are going to double you on every touch because they want to take you out of the game because you're awesome. Figure it out. Like, that was one of the biggest joys about watching KG. Super highly emotional player, Kevin Garnett, and channeled it. And now there were times where he would punch Francisco Elson in the groin in a game against the Nuggets in the playoffs. Not saying he was perfect and flawless, but like, you want to double me every possession? Here, dump it in. Come here, double. Let me hold the ball up in the air. Cool, now I'm being doubled. Now someone's wide open. Boom, rocket pass to Fred Hoiberg in the corner. Sam Cassell over on the elbow, right? Like, going in, he knew, I'm going to keep my composure. Of course they're going to double me. I'm freaking Kevin Garnett. I welcome the double team, and now I'm going to go to work. And, of course, these officials are going to insert themselves. They're officials, but I'm going to play through it and keep my mouth shut,
Yes.
So, just like,
great point.
I don't know. There's plenty more to talk about, and there's things that can be fixed here, and we can talk about throughout the rest of the week. But that was really tough to watch last night with Towns.
It literally reminded me of, and if they would have lost this game, obviously, I think our tone would even be more like salacious on Towns' performance, but it reminded me of Cousins. It reminded me. It was this moment where the lights were big and you weren't able to deliver. And yeah, I mean, it's different in football and basketball that referees, I do think, play a little bit more factor than the referees in football do. But like, this reminded me of Week 17 against the Bears in 2018. Like, all you got to do, Kirk, is rise up and you're playing a B squad Bears team. I know the Clippers had Paul George out there last year, but like, all you have to do is just be yourself and ball out, and this team's going to the playoffs. And you sabotaged the game because you weren't able to do it. It reminded me of a Kirkian performance where we have ripped him before. It was in that same Venn diagram for me.
I agree with that. I agree completely.
Yep. All right, let's pause here, boys, and let's get to write that down predictions and accountability session. And maybe Maya Mackey can.
Maya Mackey got something to say about that? She's mad about Cat.